At first light, a 150-meter fishing vessel leaves harbor, bound for the deep grounds of giant grouper.
Ahead lies rough water and the rocky seafloor slopes, where giant groupers lurk close to the bottom.
Every meter of deck is dominated by gear built to drag a bottom net across the seafloor for giant groupers.
Giant groupers are ambush predators, thick-bodied and powerful, hugging drop-offs and rocky ledges.
Electronics mark narrow bands of depth and structure where giant grouper concentrate in the dark below.
On the bridge, the captain reviews how grouper behavior dictates where and when to tow the net.
Ground gear must survive contact with jagged rock, where giant groupers hide among boulders.
Every mesh panel is checked because a single weak seam could spill tons of giant grouper back to the deep.
Floats and chain are balanced so the net rides low enough to capture groupers without burying in rock. Layers of chafing gear protect the code end, where giant groupers will slam against the mesh in dense numbers. Precise control of net depth is critical when towing just above rock to intercept giant grouper.
Target tows are plotted along steep breaks where groupers rise from the shadows to feed.
Oversized steel doors will spread the bottom net wide across grouper territory on the seafloor. Winch cables are ready to tow the heavy bottom net for hours at a time without slack. Reaching the grounds, the crew prepares to send the bottom net into the dark below. The heavy door slips into the water, dragging the first wing of the grouper net behind it. A second door follows, the pair beginning to spread the net open behind the vessel. Steel cables stream out while the net descends toward the rough giant grouper bottom.
9 to 5 fathoms, almost there.
Instruments confirm the gear is riding close to the seafloor, in the strike zone for giant grouper.
First returns appear as slow, heavy targets, glued to the seafloor contours.
The tow settles in, the net creeping just above rock as the crew fine-tunes cable tension. The helm follows a precise path along the shelf break, mirroring the grouper's own routes.
On the bottom, giant groupers hold tight to rocks, unaware of the distant net drawing nearer.
Sensing change in the water, the groupers shift position as the net glides closer along the bottom.
Ground gear bounces over rock, pushing the grouper up and back into the path of the closing mesh.
Giant groupers surge forward, but the walls of net close steadily around them.
The fish pivot into the funnel, their escape options shrinking with every meter of tow.
One by one, the giants cross the invisible line into the heart of the towing net.
Within the trawl body, captured grouper begin to circle in a confined cloud of silt and scales.
At the tail of the net, the code end swells as heavy-bottled giants gather in the deepest part of the bag.
On deck, rising tension numbers hint at a growing mass deep behind the vessel.
Electronics reveal a thick, continuous mark in the wake of the towing gear.
Inside the code end, the groupers pack together, their movements limited by the heavy mesh walls.
Each bump over rock shakes more grouper from cover into the expanding catch.
The crew watches the tow time carefully, balancing catch size against gear strain.
Now off the roughest ground, the bulging code end swings heavily through the water.
Satisfied with the weight on the gear, the captain calls for haulback on the first tow.
Steel cables tighten under load as the gear lifts free of the giant grouper bottom.
Doors peel away from the sand, pulling a swollen codend up into the water column behind them.
From outside, the vessel's posture reveals the heavy drag of a loaded bottom net astern.
As the code end climbs, the grouper pack even tighter into the lowest corner of the bag.
On deck, every obstacle is cleared to make room for the incoming code end. The doors appear first, dripping seawater as the crew secures them to the rail.
The main body of the net surfaces, dragging a long sock of catch closer to the ship.
Below the chop, a swollen codend of giant grouper looms just beneath the surface.
Code end erupts into view, water exploding off the heaving mass of net and fish.
Watch the line. Bring it up. Easy.
Crew rush to clip a heavy bridle onto the code end, bulging with giant T-grouper bodies.
The crane strains as the code end rises, bulging with the full weight of the grouper catch. Suspended beside the hull, the code end sways with hundreds of giant T groupers pressed inside.
Careful teamwork lines the bulging code end up above the steel fish hopper.
One critical knot controls when the entire mass of grouper will drop into the hopper below. Everyone takes their position, knowing the next moment will unleash the full haul.
With a sharp pull, the code end spills its first surge of giant grouper into the waiting steel chute.
The hopper fills rapidly, layer upon layer of giant grouper thundering into the hold entrance. A second violent shake unleashes another wall of grouper into the ship's receiving system. For an instant, the hopper overflows, a crest of grouper spilling down into the processing flow.
As the final fish drop out, the once swollen code end shrinks back into an empty sleeve of mesh.
With the code end secured, attention shifts to the torrent of grouper moving through the ship's guts. Even as the first catch is still moving below, the crew rush to ready the gear for another set. The ship steams on, dragging its emptied gear back aboard to prepare for the next giant grouper run. The battle deep below intensifies as the first giant commits.
Every pull threatens the entire operation.
The sea tests their strength with every violent surge. The grouper's power bends steel beyond tolerance.
The crew braces as the deep fights back. At last, the giant breaks the surface in a violent eruption. The monster dives, refusing to surrender. Unexpected force threatens critical gear. Reinforcements are their only chance to hold the line. The second breach reveals its colossal scale.
Deep below, a trapped school of giants struggles in silence.
One massive grouper shakes the entire net.
Currents tighten the net around the captured giants. A single eye reflects the struggle for survival.
The net strays as the giants resist.
A small tear risks a mass escape. Pressure mounts as the giants gather tightly. The ascent begins, dragging the giants from the deep.
Loaded net rises toward the surface.
The surface bursts alive with thrashing giants. Weight tests every reinforced bolt on deck. The writhing mass rocks the crane violently.
The crew fights to stabilize the swinging load.
The giants crash against the net's walls with raw force.
The catch swings toward the steel deck.
Seconds before release, the giants still fight back.
The giants hit the deck in a chaotic surge. The deck becomes a storm of fins and water.
Each thrash shows its immense power.
Teamwork drives the giants into controlled lanes.
The final giant drops like a falling boulder.
The scene grows more intense as the giants resist.
The crew rushes to regain control.
The emptied net reveals a deck overflowing with catch.
One last burst of strength drenches the team. Organization begins amid the chaos. Victory erupts across the deck.
The largest catch becomes a moment to remember.
Temporary staging readies the giants for storage.
Cleanup begins around the mountain of fish.
Each giant is lifted toward initial processing. Quality checks ensure premium standards. At the market, buyers inspect every detail.
Bidding intensifies for the prized giants.
A winning bid secures the exceptional catch.
Packing begins for long-distance transport. Pallets of giant grouper roll toward the cold container for export. Frozen air rushes out as loading continues. Labels ensure traceability to their ocean home. The sealed container begins its journey onward.
Chefs examine the prize delivery.
Freshness is confirmed with expert precision.
Preparation begins in the pristine kitchen.
perfect cuts set the foundation for remarkable dishes.
The first dish highlights pure simplicity.
Flavors deepen through fire and seasoning.
Regional recipes elevate the giant's richness.
Diners savor the journey from ocean to table.
A feast celebrates the remarkable catch.
The story ends with gratitude for the ocean's bounty.